Today, we're diving into the work of Grant Cameron. He's a researcher who makes a pretty bold claim that the biggest UFO secrets have nothing to do with alien technology and everything to do with the power of our own minds. His whole theory connects government cover-ups, those strange lights in the sky, and the very fabric of our consciousness. So let's just start with the question that sits at the center of this whole mystery. You know, we always picture these secrets locked away in some dusty government vault or a hidden base. But what if the key to this entire puzzle is somewhere way, way closer? What if it's actually inside us? That's the core idea we're going to unpack today. All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to start with a classic, presidents and UFOs. Then we'll get to know our main researcher, Grant Cameron. From there, we'll plunge right into his main theory about consciousness, see how he uses it to connect a bunch of other strange phenomena, peek at some key questions from his work, and then finally talk about how you can carry this mystery forward yourself. Okay, part 1, presidential UFOs. We're kicking this off on familiar ground, right? The intersection of the White House and the biggest mystery of our time. For decades, the question has always been, what do they know? Researchers have been chasing these rumors of secret briefings, hidden files, all of it pointing to some truth that's kept under the tightest possible security. So, part 2, the researcher. It's this intense focus on government files that brings our key figure into the story. Because while a lot of researchers were digging through archives looking for physical evidence, Grant Cameron, well, he started looking in a totally different direction. He began connecting dots that led away from technology and towards something way more personal. So who is Grant Cameron? He's a leading voice in this field who actually started out focusing on what presidents knew about UFOs. But he really made a name for himself by pushing the boundaries beyond just nuts and bolts aircraft. He argues that the UFO phenomenon, human consciousness, and government secrecy, they aren't separate topics at all. They're 3 parts of one single, interconnected puzzle. Part 3 is consciousness, the UFO. Okay, this is where Cameron's work takes a really radical turn. He basically proposes we shift the entire investigation away from looking up at the sky and instead looking inside our own minds. And this slide lays it out perfectly. On one hand, you've got the traditional external path. That's all about tracking physical objects, hunting for classified briefings, but Cameron's work has shifted more and more to the internal path. This means looking into witness reports of sudden downloads, where complex information or ideas just appear in their minds, and really exploring the deep role that consciousness itself might be playing in all of this. And this brings us to the core of his theory, a question that really reframes everything. I mean, forget alien tech for a second. What if the phenomenon isn't from another planet, but from another state of mind? What if it's tied to, or maybe even a product of, consciousness itself? This would mean the UFO isn't an object we see, but an experience we're actually participating in. So part 4, connecting phenomena. Once you start looking at the world through this lens, through this filter of consciousness, other strange things start to look different. Cameron uses this as a kind of unified theory to connect a whole range of mysteries that we normally treat as totally separate things. This table is a brilliant illustration of his unified theory of the weird. For instance, he links Bigfoot not just to simulation theory, but also to this concept of the egregore phenomenon. Now, an egregore is basically a thought form, an entity that's created and then sustained by the collective belief and psychic energy of a group. Then he connects things like poltergeists and telepathy to the idea of a holographic reality, the theory that our physical world is just a projection of a deeper, more informational reality. And finally, he looks at the entire universe through a framework he calls the Immaculate Constellation, suggesting reality itself is structured in a way that's deeply meaningful and interconnected. Part 5, inside the legacy files. So, to see how he actually applies these pretty mind-bending ideas, let's take a quick look at some of the questions he tackles in his video series, which is known as the Legacy Files. The first question hints at something he calls the Skywatcher PSYOP, basically a psychological operation to manage how we all perceive this. He asks, why does the official conversation seem to be pushing out the people who've been researching this for decades? Is it just about controlling the story, or is it something deeper? An effort to control how we're even allowed to think about the phenomenon. And this builds right on that idea of the egregore we just mentioned. This concept of a collective psychic projection suggests that some phenomena, maybe even something like Bigfoot, might not exist as a physical creature in the way we think of one, but as an entity that's brought into a kind of reality by our shared belief and focus. It's a fascinating and, frankly, kind of unsettling idea. And finally, he connects all of this to one of the biggest questions you can possibly ask, tying it back to his immaculate constellation theory. Are we living in a simulation? In his framework, this isn't just some philosophical game. It's a real question about whether the fabric of our reality is what we think it is, and if it's not, how that could explain every single other mystery we've talked about. Part 6, Carry the Mystery. So after exploring all these complex, seriously mind-bending ideas, the journey doesn't have to end here. The invitation from Cameron's work isn't just to learn about these theories, but to really engage with the mystery on your own terms. So if your curiosity is officially sparked, there are a bunch of ways you can keep exploring. You can dive into his books for a much deeper analysis, watch the full video archives that we've just sampled from, or even find ways to support the ongoing research. I love this quote. It really captures the whole spirit of his work. It's not about finding one simple, neat answer. It's about embracing the questions and letting the mystery itself change how you see the world. And that brings us to our final thought. We've traced this line from presidential secrets all the way to the nature of consciousness itself. We've seen how a single theory can try to connect everything from Bigfoot to UFOs. So now, the question isn't just for the researchers. It's for you. After seeing all these connections, what does this mystery mean to you?